Math lesson 14. We're continuing to work with 3-digit numbers, but now we're learning how to subtract them. And just like we did with subtraction of 2-digit numbers, subtraction can be a little challenging because you sometimes have to regroup or take a group of tens and bust it up into a group of ones to help you have enough to subtract. We also might have to do the same thing when it comes to the hundreds place. We might have to break up the hundreds into groups of 10 to give us enough numbers to subtract. And so that's what makes subtraction a little bit more difficult than maybe addition. So let's look at these examples from our Ready Math book. So this example, it says Holly has 368 Pet Pal cards. Dora has 243 cards. How many more cards does Holly have than Dora? So we're trying to find the difference between the two amounts. So if Holly has 368, we're going to subtract the difference, or subtract what Dora has to find the difference. All right, so one of them has more than the other. We're going to subtract those two numbers to find out the difference. So this one's going to be pretty easy because it does not involve any regrouping. So we've started off with our base 10 blocks to help us visualize this. We've got our first number, 368. So we've got 100, 200, 300. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. So 360 and 8. All right, so that's our first number. And to model this, we can just mark out or take away Dora's amount of Pet Pal cards. So I'm going to take away, I can start with my hundreds if I want. I'm going to take away 2 of the hundreds. I'm going to take away 4 tens. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to take away 3 ones. 1, 2, 3. All right. Then all we have to figure out is what's left over. So I have 100. I've got 10 and 20. And I've got 5. So the difference is 125, right? That's what's left over after we subtracted or took away the difference, all right, between the two. Now, the next example is going to be a little more tricky because we're not going to have enough and we're going to have to do some regrouping, all right? So let's read the problem. It says, at Brown School, there are 305 girls and 276 boys. How many more girls are there than boys? So again, we're trying to find the difference. So I'm taking the two numbers. I'm going to write it up here so you can see our problem. 305. Now subtracting 276. All right, and that will give us the difference between boys and girls. Now, if we think about our base 10 blocks, so let's look at what they've drawn here. They've got the 3 hundreds and then 5 ones. There are no tens in our original number of girls, 305. But I see that I'm having to take away some ones and some tens, and I'm not going to have enough. So what do? Is they show you how to break apart a group of 100 into some more tens. So we're going to trade in that 100 block, and they show you here that hundreds block, if I bust it apart, becomes 10 groups of 10. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, 100 is also equal to 10 tens. And so we've traded that hundreds block in for 10 groups of 10. But then we also know, now that we have some tens, I can subtract some tens, but let's look at our ones. I have 5 ones, and I'm trying to take away 6 ones. Well, that's not enough ones. So I'm going to bust one of those tens apart into 10 ones to give me some more ones. All right, so now let's look at what we are subtracting. So we busted it apart, and I now have 200, all right? I now have 200. I'm going to write that right here. Plus 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 in the tens place. And then we had a group of 10 and 5, so that would be 15. Now, can I take away the 276? Absolutely. So I could take away, I'm going to use my little thing to mark it off over here. I can take away the 200s. We have to subtract 7 groups of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're taking away 6 ones. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one more makes 6. So let's see what's left. All right. After I've done my subtraction, I had to regroup and subtract. Do I have any hundreds left? No. All right. We traded in one of our hundreds for groups of 10, and then we subtracted the other 2 from our problem. So there are no hundreds left. Do we have any tens left? Well, we do. We have 2 tens, which would be 20. And let's count how many ones we had. That was a group of 10, but we took one of them away. So now it's only 9. So the answer to our problem is that there are 29 more girls than there are boys. All right, but let's think about that. Again, not just using our place value blocks or our drawings, which is nice because we can actually see that regrouping and we can see the subtraction when we mark it off. But let's think about it in our place value, kind of like our place value chart here at the bottom. All right, so our first number is 305. So there were no tens, and we were subtracting 276. Again, if I look at this, I can't have 5 and take away 6. And I can't have 0 and take away 7. So we know we're going to have to go over here to the hundreds and take some of those hundreds and bust them apart into tens and ones. So I'm going to do that just like we did up here, but in the place value chart. So instead of using 300s, I'm going to use 200s, which then means that there's a group of 10 right here. Right, 10 groups of 10 is equal to the last group of 100. That's what we did right here. We took the 100 and made it into 10 groups of 10. All right, we still had our 5 ones, but we know we also need some more ones. Just like we did up here, we regrouped one of those groups of 10, busted apart into 10 ones. So instead of putting a 10 right here, I'm actually only going to have a 9 because that other group of 10 is going to be broken apart to make a total of 15 ones. And then we can actually do the subtraction. 15 minus 6 is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. And 2 minus 2 is 0. So again, I have 29 left in the problem. So that shows me the difference between the boys and the girls at the school. Again, subtraction is a little more difficult because we do have to regroup. And here we had to regroup hundreds into tens and some tens into ones. So it might be helpful as you're learning to subtract with 3-digit numbers to continue to use those quick draws and actually model out what you see in these subtraction problems.